Well, good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Mayor's Neighborhood Safety Task Force to order. Will the recording secretary please call the roll?
Christopher Storr. Marianne Downey. Here. Megan McGinty. Here. James Moreland. Diane Marlin.
Here.
John Roscoe. Teresa Nicholson. Here. Kathy Wallach. Here. Norma Linton. Esther Patch.
Here.
Clyde Walker. Jerry Merrill.
Okay. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce Kate Brickman. She will be taking Jolinda Ross's place as Executive Assistant to the Mayor and City Administrator effective March 19th. So Jolinda is going to be moving on to bigger, I won't say better things, but and I just wanted to express the city's appreciation for everything Jolinda has done for the past 19 years at the City of Urbana. And she has supported the Safety Task Force since its inception. So Kate comes to us from the Public Works Department, where she's worked there for about 12 years. Okay, approval of minutes from the previous meeting. Is there a motion?
I move approval.
Second.
Say, moved by Esther Patt, seconded by Teresa Michelson. Is there any corrections? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Do we have anyone who wishes to address the Neighborhood Safety Task Force? We do have a couple of presentations later on. Okay. Seeing none, we have a couple of presentations. First up is Giovanna Di Benedetto. She's representing the Silverwater neighborhood and has been very active in that area recently. And Kathy, would you like to provide any further introduction?
She's been very busy in that area, and we've definitely seen some improvement in what's going on there. So we're glad to have you here. Do you want Neil to come up and sit with you?
Neil come up and sit with me.
Neil is also one of the activists.
So Neil and Giovanna, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. So I'm going to start off with kind of what we've done this last. I've lived in the neighborhood for about a year and a half, and
Can you pull your mic just a little bit closer to you? Will that help?
that work? Is that better?
Okay.
Yes, speak into the microphone.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Here comes my sound guy. See, I know I brought him for a reason. Okay. So I moved into the neighborhood about a year and a half ago, and that's when Real Life Singles kind of took on the neighborhood. Because 2 weeks after I moved into the neighborhood, there was a gang shooting right outside my window, outside my children's window. So we in the last year and a half, the accomplishments that what we've been able to do, because there were 3 shootings that summer, just right on that corner of Silver and Vawter.
This was 2016?
2016, yes,
Okay.
because 2017, I'll get to that in a minute because
Okay.
we're really proud of that. So in that year and a half, we started having weekly Sunday dinners that are open to the community, and we do have, that is a rotating group of people, it seems, that come in and out. And we also started a monthly prayer meeting that's open to the community just to spend that time focusing, because we are a Christian group that, God can make a change. So we've been doing that for a year and a half now. In that year, we had an ice cream social that drew about 50 people, and that was without advertising. We went out that day, put up signs, and had 50 people show up roughly. That was to kind of give us an idea for a couple of weeks later for what was deemed a block party, but I have been corrected several times by Neil that it really was more of a carnival.
It grew too big to be considered a block
and I think
party.
you guys, a few of you and Diane, you were there, and it was a lot bigger than we planned. But we estimate roughly 100 people came to that throughout the apartments and a few people from the houses. At that event, we also, raffles, and through a private donation, we raised $240 for Crisis Nursery and Courage Connections. From that, our church, and in response to your question to us, Diane, at the end of the block party was, what are you doing next? We did. I think my response was sleep. But we did get right to work, and we were able to sponsor a backpack drive for the Urbana kindergartners through Head Start. So over 30 backpacks were delivered for all of those kindergartners moving on to Urbana kindergartens that year. We held an open house at Christmas just to kind of get people talking in the middle of winter. We also held a food drive during the month of December. Our church graciously donated a few gift certificates from Myers to encourage people. And I think in the end I had 5 50-gallon things of food, something like that, in a matter of 2 weeks that we were able to donate to Courage Connections for their common food pantry, because that is an area that at that time they were struggling to keep filled for residents and stuff. So we were able to do that, and of course my towel, there we go. As a result, and then during that time we also were able to partner with Sam Smith through Cranart at the block party and the ice cream social. As a result, his Cranart is now involved in the neighborhood. We are one of their projects, I guess you would say, and also his Peace Project students at Urbana High School are actively involved in the neighborhood. They've held one dinner outside where they catered it. Well, they cooked the food, brought it in, and we actually had community discussions over, what people would like to see change, what can be done, and out of that, because it was in the fall, I want to say, but that's how we were able to kind of keep going through the winter, where even though violence comes down, everyone's isolated, and we're able to keep some communication going because of that. But as a result, I now meet with his students on a regular basis, and if we're doing a project, they help us out, and if they want to do a project, this kind of goes both ways. So, it's been a very busy year for us. Sam pointed out to me this last month that this was the first month, and we did have plans for February, just due to a family emergency. We could not follow through on them. And he goes, this is the first month since the block party that we have not done anything. And I went, wait a minute, we were busy before that. And I went, no wonder we're tired. We really were tired. But we were excited about what we accomplished. As a direct result of those things, there were no shootings this summer in Silver Water, none. And we're very proud of that. And I'm very proud of what God has done in a neighborhood that when I moved in there, the first words to me were, welcome to the ghetto, nobody cares about us. And to this day, that breaks my heart, because drug addict, abuser, nobody should feel that way, because when they feel that way, it just perpetuates the problems in the neighborhood. You have to give these people self-esteem. You have to give them something outside of their world to focus on. And we've been able to do that. We do have a lot of plans for this year going forward. Now that my family emergency is over and we can all focus again, for March, we are now working on, instead of doing an Easter egg hunt for the kids, we would like to do pictures for families. That is a big thing that I know I personally appreciated when people did for me. Families, most of these families, we can't even afford to buy our kids' school pictures, So to be able to set up something where they can come, bring their families, get their pictures taken, get at least one printout of it that they can then take to Myers or wherever, and have something like that for themselves. We just decided to do this. Like I said, we're just coming back from all this, so we are hoping to be able to do that sometime in March right now. So that's where we're off to for March. The next thing that we really would like to get started on is the carnival. I know there had been talk even at the last block party of one of the biggest issues we're having right now is we cannot get people in the houses involved. it's like pulling teeth. You have a couple people that are willing to, or they'll come out to things, but they really won't like help plan them. And it just doesn't help any. You have people in those apartments that care. You have people that have lived there for 15, 20 years. They remember when it was beautiful. But those people in the apartments won't come out either, because to them, we're just going to walk away again. So we need to create a dialogue. We need to create involvement going both ways. So one idea for the carnival, honestly, is to try and move it. We had it in Paul's parking lot last year. We really want to move that down, right in front of houses. Yes, we are working on that. We cannot move it where the bus lines are, though. The police have said we'd have to move heaven and earth. However, what we would like to do is move it to Fletcher Street, right between Silver and Mumford, where it's kind of, Mumford ends right there, so that we're not really interrupting the flow of traffic. And that is something that I actually talked with the police about the day of the block party. So that's what we're looking at right now. But in order to do that, we are organizing with Sam and his students a time where they're going to host a dinner outside, I think. But basically, it's going to be an open meeting. Let's all get together. Let's throw ideas around about the block party, carnival, whatever we're going to call it this year. Let's see who's willing to help, what resources exist. Because last year, about 5 of us, pulled off that carnival. And we had a lot of help at the last minute because we got in way over our heads real fast. But we were excited to see where it went. But as a result, in talking with people, the expectations are now there, at least in the immediate community. And that's great, because that means they care. So we're excited about that. So we will be, as I get information, I will definitely forward that on to all of you. I just spoke with Sam and his students about it today, so that'll be something that then we can start organizing from there and really make this, be able to pull some things in that we were not able to last year. So, we definitely want to do the backpack drive again. This year we'll have, we want to do the ice cream social a week or two before the block party again. We'd like to do another food drive, maybe even 2 for different organizations. And so, these are just our beginning of the year ideas. Our main goal is to host something in the neighborhood, either via us or Sam, every month. We've also been, I must forget about this, one of the things Sam is able to do is offer people in the community free tickets to go to things at Krenner as a way to kind of mesh our different, my brain just died, viewpoints, backgrounds, that stuff. So a couple of weeks ago, we actually went to see an Irish dance thing. This weekend, we are going to hear a group that combines rap music, rock music, spoken word. I know it's like 10 different things. He gave me a card, and it's like that long. So there's several of us that are going to that. So, we're really excited. And then I'm going to have Neil talk about something that is happening with our church that really is going to provide more resources within the community and possibly all of Urbana. So I'm going to turn it over to him.
Thank you. Hope Worldwide is an international organization that is actually the benevolent arm of the International Churches of Christ, which the Champaign Church of Christ is a member church of. And they've structured themselves similar to the Red Cross, where there's international headquarters, national headquarters, and then local chapters. And 2 weeks ago, we actually started to form the committee for the Champaign-Urbana local chapter of Hope Worldwide. This organization can, internationally, they fund hospitals in Central and South America. They've supported an orphanage in the Philippines. They have extensive projects working in Chicago and New York and some of the other larger cities. They are affiliated with the church, so we also have the support of the church through them. But being a part of this organization also makes it easier to solve issues such as insurance issues and some of those other issues that crop up. At our first inaugural meeting, where we've actually started speaking about some of the needs of Central Illinois, the Silver and Water area was actually discussed, and one of the potential long-term goals that was spoken about was a community center in southeast Urbana, which would provide a location where we could have some like roundtable discussions, get more input from the people of the neighborhood in the neighborhood, because one of the biggest things that I've noticed is that a lot of these people feel like they don't have a voice, or if they speak, they're not being heard, and therefore they don't try. So I feel that if we could set up more of these casual dinners and get the people's input right there in the neighborhood, there will be some ideas that are grassroots that will take off and would definitely affect the area. So as we get more organized with Hope Worldwide, I can see us partnering with the city to really meet a lot of the needs in that area. So it's additional manpower, it's additional funding, it's details like the insurance, and could lead to even bigger and better projects like the carnival, actually expanding a little more into the neighborhood, and maybe being something that we could draw more people from the houses as well as the apartments with. So there's more information on Hope International at hopeww.org. It's HOPEWW.org, so you can get more information there as well.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Giovanna or Neil? Have you looked into, as far as a meeting place, the Salt and Light, the facilities at Salt and Light?
Yeah.
Right there on Fowler Road? Seems like that would be an ideal.
Yeah, that is something that I have to go up there tomorrow anyways. And they've been a great asset to the community already. I can tell you, I know the work that we're doing counts towards hours up there. So I know being on a fixed income myself, that is a saving grace, because every time I make plans to go up there, it doesn't happen. Because for those of you that don't know, I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old at home that I do all of this around. So, but I actually hear people talking about going to work now, because they go up there and they volunteer, but they're getting paid for it, even though it's store credit. We have drug addicts going to work. That is huge, you know? And so I was actually going to be speaking with Bethany, find out who to talk to like do the pictures up there maybe. We were talking with Burger King. So definitely we want to do things. I know they will not advertise events for us because of, it was just something that they said when they first started, even in Champaign, they don't want to like conflict things that they may have going on, or I cannot remember the exact explanation. It made sense to me, but so we are going to do what we can with them as much as they're willing to do. But I know that they're also limited on some things based on what their own rules are as far as things go. But I will be, like I said, we'll see what happens when I talk with them. So,
Teresa?
What is your involvement with
condos along there because,
Speaking to the microphone.
your involvement with the condos along there, you know, they face those apartments on Silver, and whenever I go by there, I don't see anybody in or out of them. And then I think a lot of them have turned into rentals. So on, not Fletcher, the street that's Mitcham.
Yeah.
On Mitcham, for example, you know, I mean, they're clearly busy because there are lots and lots of cars parked there now. But are some of those folks involved in what you're doing?
When we first started, our focus has been along, basically, we focus on a 2-block radius, is what we've tried to do. None of those people even came out for the block party. And the block party, we went door to door, we knocked on doors, we talked with people. I mean, and we've learned that's kind of the best way to go about things. You know, we've had people from over there commit to come to things and then never show up. Ironically, the last, I would say, 2 months, because I've had to look up when someone's asked me about police being down the road or something. Ironically, that's where I've seen a lot of the police activity the last few months. So I don't know if the dealers are just moving down. I'm not quite sure what's going on. I honestly haven't figured it out, because CPM properties right there are also a big, huge problem. And unfortunately, okay, I know how you guys feel about these landlords, and Paul and I have our issues too, but some things are improving. You know, I moved over to Bill's property, and it's 100% better than where I was. But CPM, they will not cooperate. They won't even let us in to hand out flyers. And so when you can't do that, you can't reach those people, you know. So we're really trying, and hopefully as we get more manpower from the high schools, students, we can create some time to maybe figure out when those people are home. With summer coming, maybe it'll be a little bit better, but those are a lot of rentals right now through Nev's group and Green Street. We haven't been able to put our finger on it yet. So hopefully someone will come up with some answers on that one. So.
Well, there's some turnover in ownership there, so those policies may change, but we can find out.
Okay, that
Yeah.
would be, keep us posted
Okay.
because I know Sam would like to stay up to date on that stuff too, because it really reflects what he's trying to get done. I know he has some summer projects coming up that he's talking about doing in the neighborhood too, so.
Wonderful.
His
Any other
goal-
questions?
His goal is, Sam's goal is basically to have a representative from each of the apartment buildings, and that would include the condos, that he can communicate on a regular basis with to further his projects too. So any information on those landlord changes would be great.
Well, thank you very much. It sounds like you are building community
We're trying.
over there. And I'm glad I asked you what you were doing next.
You know, it was an idea, honestly, that he had already had. We just were trying to get through this block party, so you guys know, that was a grassroots idea. That did not come from our group. That came out of that Sunday prayer meeting, and 5 other residents and us brainstorming. And they went, what if we had a block party? Wouldn't that be fun? And within a month, we not only had a block party, we had a carnival, and then we had this huge and so, I mean, people want to make a difference there. And they're the people that, not that anyone matters less, but you're talking about the people that are not drug addicts, that want to get help, that want to, or the drug addicts that want to get clean but can't get out. You just got to give them the time, and you got to treat them like a person. And when you do that, it's amazing what can happen. And we're also focusing on the domestic violence end of things over there too, because that was the big issue in the neighborhood this year. Instead of shootings, we had a rise in domestic violence. So that's our other focus now. So thank you for having us. So.
Thank you very much. And I know the city public safety officials and community development officials have spent enormous amount of time and effort there as well. So
Yeah,
thank you
we've
very
seen
much.
it, so.
Thank you.
Wow. Amazing. We have one other presentation tonight. Jeff Martin is going to be telling us about the qualitative survey work they've been doing. or that we will be engaging in with our Urbana Police Department.
It's been a while, yeah. Okay, I will just, so I'm,
And he'll be joined by Chief Sylvia Morgan.
okay, well, fantastic, yeah.
Didn't want to just, throw him up here by himself.
Yeah, okay. Should I just go?
go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I'm here kind of as part of a larger group project, and I was sort of turned out to be the person who showed up, so I don't really know exactly what you're expecting or what I can tell you, but I can tell you whatever you'd like to know. It's the mixed qual survey of the police community relationship in Urbana is the project I'm working on. I'm the qualitative research director, I guess. And
So this is the survey that will be conducted as a part of the research grant that we got in conjunction with the University of Illinois. So I'm not sure, just so that they know kind of the basis of what the grant that we received through the university, and Urbana was a partner with them, and in order to I'm not sure I'm going to say it exactly right. You might have to give the name of
Okay.
the grant because it's
yes.
based on the hotspot policing and.
it's infusing community policing strategies into hotspots policing strategies. I think there's only one use of the word strategy. So there's going to be a very innovative way of recalibrating the organization of policing that will be done by the professionals. And then I'm a researcher who specializes, I'm an anthropologist, and I study policing around the world. Actually, most of my research has been in China, believe it or not, but I moved back here a few years ago, and I study like police legitimacy and how people think about the police and think what the police are supposed to do. So most of my research has been focused on what happened in Taiwan when it became democratic. So I look at the connection between democratic political institutions and the ways that police and regular citizens interact. And now that I'm here, it seems like a very interesting question to pursue in my own backyard, sort of. I mean, I'm a Urbana resident, so this is kind of the first piece of research that I've done on American policing.
So one of the things that one of the first parts of the grant, there's a lot of like kind of paperwork behind the scenes stuff going on now and moving toward the being able to go out into the community and do the surveys.
Yes.
And I think maybe just letting everybody know kind of how that's going to take place and
Okay.
the method that's going to kind of
Excellent.
be used for some of that.
Okay, yes. So there's going to be two different kinds of survey research going on. There's going to be a quantitative survey done through telephone surveys, I believe, and that's being contracted out to the UIC Survey Research Laboratory, who has a lot of experience doing this. And this is a very standard way of measuring sort of community trust in policing. And so that's going to be done with all the that's going to be done very well. We're going to do a before and a after survey around an intervention in a year or two. And that's the quantitative people. And then I'm the qualitative person. My research associate is here. We're the qualitative team, and we have one other person who's not here right now. And so we are going to actually go out and talk to people. You get a different story when you talk to someone face to face than when they do they do a phone survey, but we can't talk to everyone. We can only talk to a few people, but we're going to do in-depth interviews and figure out how people explain why they think what they think. And we're sort of starting out very loose. We're just talking to everyone we can. We've been talking to all the city councilors, and we'll talk to all the neighborhood watch people, and we'll go visit the churches, and we'll talk to all the community members. And then as we get a sense of what's going on, we're going to do focus groups in a few different neighborhoods that have been sort of scheduled for either being a place where things are actually going to change or being a control group. And so our main method is going to be just doing focus groups, having a conversation about what it's like to live in the community. And we'll do that now or soon. We'll do it this summer, and then we'll do it again in a couple years and see what kinds of changes have happened.
And can you use involvement from the Neighborhood Safety Task Force members or the groups they represent?
Absolutely. I guess as an anthropologist, my job is to go somewhere where I have no clue what's going on and ask people to help me understand what's going on. So I come to you as someone who knows much less than I would like to know, and I I can use all the help I can get. So basically, over the next few years, the research team, and potentially a bunch of students. I teach classes about policing and police-community relations, so we can talk to a lot of people and find out what's going on and turn that into a useful sort of context for the real scientific quantitative measurement. And I would like to talk to everyone.
And can you speak to, Urbana really is at the forefront in research in this area. When you combine this with the incredible amount of work we've done with the traffic stop data. So can you speak to what this means in terms of adding to the knowledge?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, this is really pioneering. Melissa Haynes is a really forward-thinking, excellent person. You really did a great job in hiring her, and she really knows what she's doing with the classical criminal justice side of the research. And I'm a very non-traditional criminal justice researcher. There's not a lot of anthropologists of police out there, although there are a few of us. And us getting together is doing something that really hasn't been done before. And we've got, we're going to be able to publish this, and we're going to have the discussion between quantitative and qualitative methods that we're doing is going to be of tremendous interest to the scholars that I communicate with. I think there's a potential to maybe help the practical problems get solved, and hopefully, make a positive contribution to practitioner literatures. It's really promising.
Great.
Yeah.
Any questions for Jeff or Chief Morgan? Great.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. My email, by the way, is jmart. It's like Kmart, but jmart at Illinois. And I really would like to talk to anyone that would be interested to talk to me.
Okay. Thank you. So Chief Morgan will be giving us an update on the recent rash of break-ins and where we are with that.
Okay, so what you have in front of you is just a real short rundown of some of the stuff that's been going on the last few months with residential burglaries. On the backside is a map, a heat map. I can explain that if you're not familiar with how a heat map works. So there's a little legend down in the corner. And so I'm happy to report, as the front of the sheet shows you, that there has been a sharp decrease in residential burglaries since we made some arrests a couple weeks ago. So that's very good news. One of the things that I've been saying everywhere I go is how much we need people to kind of be our eyes and ears and help us out and look for things that are suspicious, or even you're not really sure why they're suspicious, but it just kind of like raises the hair on the back of your neck kind of thing, and just call us about that. Sometimes it's somebody innocently doing something, like we've unfortunately had a lot of people from a particular landscaping company going around the neighborhoods and knocking on doors late in the evenings. And that's been scaring people because of the things that have been going on that you see in this sheet, which are, residential burglaries. And sometimes people will knock on doors during the day, and if nobody answers, then they know that they can break in because nobody's there, or there's no dog because no dog barked, and things like that. So there's a lot of different tactics that are used, but that's one of them. And so we did, what happened when we had a couple of burglaries that involved the people breaking in, taking the keys out of the house, finding car keys, and then stealing a car. So we recovered 2 different vehicles and got some evidence out of those vehicles. And as a result, we're able to, it led us to some surveillance video at a business based on a receipt that was left behind. And so we had some surveillance video of someone that we believed had stolen the car. And then as we kind of went through this, we then had somebody call and said, somebody knocked on my door and asked to use the phone, which is odd. in this day and age. You know, everybody has cell phones. It's just a very unusual thing to happen. And he allowed him to use the phone and then called us and gave us the phone number and said, "This, I thought this was odd. I went ahead and let him use the phone, but here's the phone number." And so we were able to get some information from that as well. And then the third thing that happened was somebody that was just paying attention in their neighborhood and saw a couple of people walking around looking like they were knocking on doors, and thought it was odd that they were not from the neighborhood. And so they called, and we were able to make 2 arrests based on all of those things coming together at some point. So it was little pieces from here and there, and that's why we tell people to call. We may not find one particular thing or get, the smoking gun, so to speak, in a one particular call, but as a perfect example of why we need people to be paying attention. And just because we have this stark drop in burglaries, as you can see, since we made those arrests, there have been very few burglaries. It's not always, just because we make an arrest, it doesn't always stop what's going on, but it certainly reduced it in this case. So they were responsible for quite a few of the burglaries that were going on. But at any given time, there can be somebody that is, going around trying to do burglaries and get things, especially vehicle burglaries. But it's just important at all times to just kind of be aware. The police are trained, obviously, to look for things that are suspicious, but, a general public not necessarily maybe pick up on certain things that are suspicious, but just being aware of your surroundings and knowing your neighborhood and those sort of things, and calling when something doesn't seem quite right is helpful to us in trying to solve these things, because we can't be everywhere, obviously, all the time. Do you have any questions about the handout or about the rest or anything?
Does anybody in the police department monitor the discussion that goes on in the Nextdoor app?
In Nextdoor, I don't believe so.
Okay.
I can double check, but
Well, I certainly don't expect there to be a paid position monitor
sure,
Facebook,
no. But we
Nextdoor,
do
those-
monitor some social media, yes.
Right,
But I don't
right.
know that particularly is.
I ask simply because there was a group of people kind of in the George Huff Schumann Circle area who were developing kind of a vigilante approach to the burglaries, which was a little concerning. So how would one who is observing that take place deal with that with the police department? I mean, they were talking about, well, first they were insisting upon the city installing surveillance cameras. I said, no, that's not happening. But, they're talking about individuals buying cameras, angling them so they can see everybody that comes in, everybody that goes out, and patrolling and getting walkie-talkies and things that to me were kind of frightening when you think about Fourth Amendment rights and those kinds of things. So I went and drove the area, and there are no streetlights in this particular area. There were so few houses with outside lights on, I was appalled. And what's one of the very first things you say to people for prevention in this kind of thing? Turn on your outside lights. But so I guess my question is twofold. Here's this discussion going on, arranging these groups, which is kind of how the people along Washington Street in Champaign attacked their prostitution issue 20 years ago or so. But then they're also, I don't mean to offend anybody in that area, but they were leaving out one of the basics in crime prevention: turn on your outside lights.
So, I mean, it seems like that would be a perfect opportunity for, us to get in touch with somebody that's involved in that conversation and say, hey, can we come out and talk to you? Sounds like a neighborhood watch to me, maybe needs some guidance. And so that would be a perfect opportunity for us to, if we were able to, and again, I'm not sure how Nextdoor works, so I'm not really sure I can speak to specifically to that, but if someone were to let us know that was going on, if we did not know that, then maybe we could try to get in contact with somebody in the area and say, hey, can we come out? Can you get a group together? We can give you some tips and things to do and stuff like that. And, having people walk around in the streets and stuff when you have a problem going on isn't necessarily a bad thing. but how you go about doing it is probably something that you would, maybe need a little direction on. So, unfortunately, a lot of burglaries happen during the day as well because people aren't, even though it is light, a lot of people are at work. But in any given neighborhood, I guarantee there's somebody at home, whether it's a stay-at-home mom or someone that works afternoon shift or night shift or something that's there during the day that, that can kind of help, watch out for things and stuff. So that's kind of the message we've been trying to, spread, I guess, as far as that goes.
Well, I did suggest the formal neighborhood
Yeah.
watch, and as I understand it, somebody finally did pick up on the message, and
Okay.
and they did contact Lieutenant Fitzgerald, so
Good.
hopefully
Yeah,
that's been
that would be
taken care of.
the best thing to do, I think.
And lock your car doors.
And lock your car doors. I say it all the time.
Keep your garage door down. Yes.
Well, yeah, lock all your doors. Yes. Any other questions? Okay.
Thanks, Sylvia.
Yep.
Reports from neighborhood groups. Should we, anybody want to go first? Wuna?
Yeah, actually, I'm not representing Wounded here, but since I'm from, I hadn't planned anything. I know we had, an armed robbery outside my building. Was that a month ago? I forget. But I don't know. I haven't heard anything very specific on the list as far as anyone upset about specific crimes. I guess everyone's just concerned about crime in general. But other than that, I have nothing to report.
Suna?
It's all good. Thanks to the citizenry and the Urbana Police Department. It's all good. Knock on wood.
This doesn't have anything to do the neighborhood group, but I thought the newspaper had a really nice article about the investigative process that the Urbana police went through, to find these robbers. I thought that was great. I mean, it was great explanation and great PR for a great police department.
Well, it was great detective work and great community collaboration, and it takes both. It really does. Anything else? It's all good. Okay. Megan?
Our neighborhood looks great these days. I've actually had folks from different school buildings come up to me and go, "What is going on in that King neighborhood?" Because with the new housing that's going up, we don't have anywhere near the foot traffic that was concerning. We don't have, the new houses. The folks are much quieter. We don't have a lot of transient people living. We
Can you
did
speak
have.
into the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. We did have some, what I thought was shooting. There was an awful lot of police activity sometime within the last 3 or 4 days. Was that anything major or?
I'm not sure I can answer that right now. I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know what that was.
Okay. But other than that, yeah, it's really quiet, except for people never seem to want to stop at four-way stops in my neighborhood. Everything's good.
Every neighborhood.
So
Yeah.
when you talk about new housing, are you talking about the Habitat houses?
Yeah.
Okay. It's been
Absolutely.
a very successful program the city has had with Habitat. And we're about to build the 50th Habitat house in Urbana this summer. Where? Do we know where?
I think it's on there's 2 lots on Breslin. That's one of those 2.
Okay.
I can't even keep up. I can't even keep up with, they go up so quickly. The ones that went up on Church, I just turned around and they were there, and I drive by there every day. And they work very hard, and the families are genuinely grateful. I'm going to be meeting with the person from Habitat when she comes back from El Salvador, and hopefully we can work together to get a little bit more community involvement working together. So.
Wonderful. Mary Ann?
I only want to say that I know our neighborhood has been really concerned about the burglaries, and it's dominated the Facebook page that is shared, and just a lot of anxiety about it. So I think this is going to be very good news that will be very well received by our neighborhood.
Okay. I did have a couple of emails come in, so well, they'll be included in the record, but I'll just summarize them. First of all, a resident was concerned about Lincoln Avenue and continues to be a dangerous crossing point from West Urbana to campus. And she believes Lincoln Avenue needs a pedestrian safety plan. So that's one thing. The other issue raised was bike riding on downtown sidewalks is a continuing problem. It puts our customers at risk. It's been discussed several times by various people at the city. And suggesting things like more publicity, bigger signs, more police enforcement. There already is a $100 fine for riding your bike on a downtown sidewalk, but enforcement is spotty. So those are the only two communications we received in advance of this meeting. Are there any other announcements from staff? John, did you want to say anything from community development? Sure, why don't you come and say something? We do have a meeting. We have been meeting on a fairly regular basis with the owners and managers in the Silver Water area, and that's helped a lot because before we didn't even really have good, we had contact information for them, but had never had face-to-face meetings. And so for the past year and a half or so, Lieutenant Sanders has been organizing that and meeting with them, and there's a meeting coming up.
Yeah, typically that's held quarterly.
Okay, yeah.
And if it's needed more often, then we can do that.
This is John Schneider, Community Development Manager.
One of the things I wanted to point out was we've been working closely with the developer of Aspen Court, and I don't know if anybody's noticed they have a fence they've installed to limit access. They're going to install a similar fence on the Ivanhoe Way entryway, so it'll basically close off that entryway. There'll be a gate for emergency personnel, and people who live there will have access using a key fob. But until they get it completely rehabbed, that's their controlling access that way. They have been requesting information about permitting, so that means that they're going to be submitting plans fairly soon to completely remodel all those units. They're going to add, I think, 2 completely accessible units in the where the lower level. They're like duplexes on the southeast, right off Ivanhoe Way. They're like single stories. They're going to change those, convert those into accessible units. And so it's a pretty ambitious project, and they got their financing in order. So I think all they have to do is get their construction plan approved by they got Illinois Housing Development Authority tax credits, so they have to go through that process. They've already gotten the tax credits. They just need to get their construction documents approved and all the documents signed and things. So that's where that is. And an update on the corner of Goodwin and Hill Street, the house on Hill Street at 1118 Hill. We just signed the contract today for demolition of that house. So what happened was we had Jason Rector owns Rector Rentals, and he is remodeling the building on the corner. He's going to put his office in there, and he bought both properties, and then he sold the single-family home that's really deteriorated to Habitat for Humanity, and we're assisting them in the demolition. So there's going to be another Habitat house going in there. And then I guess since the last time we had a ribbon cutting at Highland Green. The multifamily, it's a mostly single-story development on Kerr Avenue, adjacent to Crystal View Townhomes, and it's actually owned and operated by the same developer in concert with the Housing Authority, and they receive city assistance. But that's quite a nice development. They have, I believe, it's 8 units for reserved for veterans. So that was part of their package when they presented it for their tax credit application and things. So I think that's about it.
Can you talk about the CDBG changes
that's right.
and the home funds that TWG isn't going to be using?
Well, the target area, when HUD provides funding, the Community Development Block Grant funding, they have a designated target area, and in years past, they basically told us what the target areas are. Now, they give us more, more current information so we can do an assessment of it. In the American Fact Finder, our staff went in and found that the area near Learman in that neighborhood qualified as a low-income neighborhood, which meant which means that we'll be able to invest some community development block grant funds in the infrastructures. In the infrastructure, there's a desperate need for lights along Kinch Street. Also, there's a pathway, sidewalk, or maybe, hopefully, if we can afford a multi-use pathway, but right now it's a sidewalk that we're planning for along Philo Road to connect to the corner of Washington. And we're also talking with TWG about the connection. There's a lot of foot traffic between Aspen Court and Philo Road, and they basically, if you put a fence up, people that want to get through there, they just tear a hole in the fence and keep going. So I think TWG is looking at methods to do that, so provide a connecting path for that area over to Philo Road and Washington on the corner. But the addition of that, the only thing about the home funds is TWG doesn't know that they'll need home funds. If they don't, so that's still, if they don't, we
Okay.
have other projects that we could allocate, like rental rehab, possibly in the Silver Water area. So there's a lot of demands, as you know, for our funding, and but we're looking at the best use of the funds, most effective in the neighborhoods that need the most. One of the things that we also discovered was part of HUNA, and we talked to Dennis Roberts about this, Councilman Roberts, that part of HUNA had qualified as a low-income area for many years. Well, that no longer qualifies because of the, it has to be at more than 51% of low moderate income households. So our staff did a special census of Learman area. In addition to the information we had from the census, we're able to at least we're going to be focusing on some improvements in the Learman neighborhood. So.
Esther?
I'm curious, how much community development block grant and how much home money is Urbana getting this year or next, do you know, approximately?
Well, I can tell you that the home money has gone down significantly
That's why I
from when
asked.
we first started doing it. It's for the entire home consortium, I think it's in the $670,000 range.
Wow, it used
When
to be a
originally, you probably
million.
remember, it was 1.2 million, so
Yeah.
it's almost in half of what we started
Right.
out with.
And how about CDBG?
And
They
the
slashed that
CDBG, I
too?
believe, I haven't looked at those documents in a while. I think it's in the $260,000 to $280,000 range.
And I think there is a proposal to eliminate it completely again.
You know,
Yep.
So- so-
there always has been. I remember when I started this business, somebody told me they're going to get rid of that program. Well, yeah, so they keep trying, but the CDBG program has such a good impact on neighborhoods. We use a lot of the funding for acquiring properties and clearing them and conveying those properties to Habitat, and we talked about how Habitat has made such a great impact on one neighborhood, but basically citywide it's had a good impact too. And Habitat's looking at expanding their model into housing rehab too. So
That would help.
so there's that possibility. We won't have to be tearing down houses; they can remodel them.
Excellent. Any other questions for John? Thank you very much. Well, our next meeting date is scheduled for May 23rd, 2018. Thank you all for coming. This meeting is adjourned.